Cuts to education, human services, and the healthcare system underscore the extent of Oklahoma's budget crisis. With the legislative session more than halfway over, it remains a mystery how legislative leaders plan to fill a billion-dollar-plus budget hole. Those in charge of developing a spending plan insist they're on track to finalize a budget next month, but admit lawmakers are facing some very tough decisions in the next few weeks.
Oklahoma's already bleak budget picture took another turn for the worse this week with the release of new numbers which show the state's general revenue allocation fell 9% below projections last month. The decline forced Finance Secretary Preston Dorflinger to borrow another $31 million from agency revolving funds in order to meet state government operating expenses. That follows on the heels of news that the state's rainy day fund has already been emptied to pay the state's bills.
We certainly are monitoring almost daily and weekly the various impacts that we're seeing on our revenues as a state, and we'll have some very critical decisions to make in the coming months.
Dorflinger maintains the borrowed money will be repaid with revenue that comes in during the final 3 months of the fiscal year, although he concedes April's general revenue collections will be critical.
We know that they're estimated to come in about $702 million. If they come in close to that, it could be a wash, or we could see a slight deepening of the cuts under the revenue failure.
A revenue failure forced state agencies to endure spending cuts earlier this year, and House Appropriations Chair Leslie Osborne says several options are now being considered to plug the state's ever-growing budget hole.
Because let me tell you, the hole is not $878 million, it's bigger. There's ad valorem reimbursement, teachers' insurance costs, bond payments, things that aren't, it's over $1 billion.
While right-sizing government was the mantra for Republican leaders in previous years, Osborne says there's precious little fat left to squeeze out of state agencies.
We've streamlined, consolidated, we've found IT efficiencies, we've done public-private partnerships, we've done all those things, but 85% of our agencies have been cut 40% in the last 10 years.
Osborne approached agencies last month to ask them how they would cope with a 14.5% budget cut. Oklahoma Department of Public Safety Commissioner Michael Thompson says such a cut would be devastating for the Highway Patrol.
We're going to close facilities. We're going to absolutely furlough, and we're probably going to have a conversation about reduction in force, which is a clean west, and we're going to fire people because we can't afford to pay them.
That level of cuts would also force DPS to close 25 of the state's 36 driver's license testing sites.
If we take a 15% cut, which would take us from $89 million to the neighborhood of $76 million with a payroll of $125.7 million, we're not going to have the bodies to go out to those sites to open the door and unlock the door and turn the sign on and say we're open for business.
The agency is currently asking for a supplemental appropriation of $6 million to get through the current fiscal year. Thompson has met with Osborne and Senate Appropriations Chair Kim David and remains hopeful the agency will get at least some of the money it needs.
We're just trying to get there, and I feel so encouraged by the questions that they ask and the interest they have in our financial situation that if we're going to get there, I really believe those two ladies are going to get us there.
We're working with DPS to find out what we must have to not close DMVs, to actually pay their troopers. I expect within a week we will have a bill run for DPS and we'll find out exactly what we can do for them.
Meanwhile, budget negotiations continue behind closed doors, and Senate President Pro Tem Mike Schultz says a wide range of options is being considered to close Oklahoma's budget gap.
There's not one silver bullet that's going to make up for the budget woes, budget shortfall, the hole that we're in. It's going to have to be multiple sources, multiple ideas, including revenue-raising measures, including apportionment reform, including agency cuts.
Osborne says some tough decisions will have to be made on some revenue-raising measures.
So in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see us start rolling out bills that take a 51 vote, a simple majority. Tweaks and changes to probably 10 or 15 different statutes, different things that maybe we used to give a discount on, but there's no reason to do anymore, that will maybe bring in $100, $200 million.
Other proposed tax increases, which will require 76 votes in the House to pass, will likely be rolled out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Osborne admits those measures face a high hurdle, but when asked if the state can fund a teacher pay raise, hold education harmless, and avoid devastating cuts to state agencies without increasing taxes. She replied,
No, absolutely not. We cannot. Until our prisons are taken over by the feds, until we have 40 in a classroom, until we can't recruit teachers, and when we start closing rural health care so that people have to drive 3 hours to deliver a baby, that is not acceptable.